I never thought silence could be louder than shouting. My husband, David, was never the type to raise his voice anyway, but in the months leading up to the end, it was the absence of sound that gnawed at me. That hollow space where questions hung unasked, where I filled the quiet with my own guilty heartbeat. It all started with something small, something I told myself didn't matter. A message left unread, a coffee that went on too long, a laugh that lingered in my throat when it should have been swallowed. The man's name was Ethan, someone from work, someone who wasn't supposed to matter. But the more I tried to convince myself it was harmless, the more I knew deep down I was stepping over a line. The first time I lied to David, it was easy. He asked me why I was late, and I told him traffic was bad. He nodded, said nothing, and went back to the pan on the stove. No suspicion, no accusations, not even disappointment. That should have been a relief, but instead it stung. I wanted him to pry, to dig, to demand the truth so I could feel justified in the drama of it all. But he didn't. He just stirred the pasta, set a plate in front of me, and carried on with his evening. That became the pattern. Each little lie I stacked on top of the other, waiting for it all to topple over, waiting for him to catch me. But David never yelled, never exploded. He just watched me sometimes, in that quiet, steady way of his, eyes lingering a beat too long, like he was memorizing something. And the silence between us began to stretch and twist until it felt unbearable. I remember one night vividly. I came home late, hair damp from the shower at Ethan's apartment, the scent of his cologne clinging faintly to my jacket. David was on the couch, reading. He looked up, smiled softly, and said, "Long day?" That's all. Just 2 words. But my stomach dropped like I'd been caught red-handed. "Yes," I stammered, forcing a yawn. "Back-to-back meetings." He didn't question it. He didn't need to. He just nodded, marked his page, and went to the kitchen to pour me a glass of water. His quietness was a mirror, and in it I saw every crack in my story, every tremor in my voice. Weeks passed like this. The more he said nothing, the louder my paranoia grew. I started erasing messages, double-checking my stories, scrutinizing my own reflection for signs of betrayal. And still, David stayed calm. Still, he made me breakfast. Still, he kissed my forehead goodnight. The silence was suffocating. Then came the little questions. Not confrontations. Never that. Just small, precise cuts that left me bleeding in ways he never had to acknowledge. "Who are you texting just now?" he asked one evening when my phone buzzed on the counter. "Work," I lied instantly, too quickly. He only nodded, turning back to the dish he was rinsing. No follow-up, no suspicion voiced aloud. But the way he wiped his hands on the towel, slow and deliberate, made my chest tighten. Another time, he picked up my jacket from the chair, held it out for me, and paused just slightly before handing it over. "New perfume?" he asked, though we both knew I hadn't bought any in months. "Yeah," I said, cheeks burning. "I picked it up at the mall." He just hummed, hanging the jacket neatly by the door. Nothing more. And that was worse than anger, because I knew. I knew he knew. The breaking point came months later, not in an argument, but in the calmest way imaginable. We were at his parents' house for dinner, the long oak table crowded with family. I was laughing too loudly at something his brother said, sipping wine I didn't even want, trying to drown out the dread that followed me everywhere. Halfway through dessert, David cleared his throat. Not loud, not commanding, just enough to quiet the room. He reached across the table, rested his hand lightly on mine, and said, "I think this will be our last dinner together as a couple." The room fell silent. Forks froze midair. My stomach flipped so violently I thought I might be sick. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked at me with those calm, steady eyes, the same eyes that had been watching, waiting all this time, and said, "I know, Sarah. I've known for a while. I just wanted you to have the space to tell me yourself. But you didn't. The air rushed out of my lungs. My hands went cold. Around us, his family shifted uncomfortably, but David's voice never rose, never faltered. He explained gently that he had seen the messages, that he had noticed the lies, that he had chosen silence because he wanted to see who I would be when left with the chance to come clean. And I hadn't. The shame was unbearable. Sitting there in front of his parents, his siblings, their partners with all eyes on me, I wanted to disappear. But David didn't gloat, didn't rage. He simply said, "I think it's best we part ways. I want honesty in my life, and you don't seem able to give that." Then he stood, thanked his mother for dinner, and left the table. I stayed frozen, face burning, unable to move as whispers rippled around me. The silence he'd kept all those months now echoed in that dining room, a thunderclap louder than any scream. The days that followed were worse than any punishment I could have imagined. David moved out swiftly, efficiently without bitterness. He divided our things fairly, even kindly, and left me the apartment because you'll need a place to get back on your feet. His calmness was like a knife twisting slowly because it meant he was already beyond me, already free. I, on the other hand, fell apart. I replayed every small moment, every quiet question, every time he had given me the chance to come clean. I realized how cowardly I had been, hiding behind his silence, thinking it meant safety when it really meant he was slipping away from me. And then I saw him thrive. Within months, David looked lighter, happier. He started going out more, reconnecting with friends, smiling in photos I stumbled across online. He even started dating again, a woman who looked at him with the kind of admiration I used to before I squandered it. Meanwhile, I withered. My affair had ended the moment David confronted me. Ethan wanted nothing to do with the fallout, and I was left alone, discarded by both men. My reputation shattered among our mutual friends, whispers following me everywhere. And in the quiet of my empty apartment, I finally understood the weight of silence. David had been right not to yell. His silence was a mirror I couldn't look away from, a reflection of the person I had become. And now, every time I sit in this apartment with nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the clock, I hear it again. That unbearable silence. Only this time, it's not his. It's mine.